Hi, this is Jeff Kober, and we welcome you to Disney Insights. We had a chance to visit the Beak and Barrel, and we wanted to share that total experience with you. We'll check out the food and beverage, the logistics, but most of all, we'll talk about the incredible attention to detail that creates for the entire experience. And we'll talk about its implications for not only all of Caribbean Bazaar and Adventureland at Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World, but what it might even suggest for Disneyland and for the upcoming Disney Adventure. So join us as we review the Beak and Barrel. The podcast is produced by myself and Performance Journeys, which offers training, development, and consultant support to organizations big and small and entrepreneurs new and established. With a wide variety of resources and long-time in-the-trench experience, we offer workshops, online experience, coaching, and more to organizations that want to build their teams, raise organizational excellence, improve leadership, and create customer loyalty. So check us out at performancejourneys.com. And please support us by not only subscribing to this podcast, but offering up a rating, review, or referral to others. Be sure to check out DisneyInsights.com, where we offer key photos, points, videos, links, so much more. And note that our YouTube, Disney Insights, now carries our podcast. So please subscribe to our Disney Insights YouTube page. It will have a big video of the experience at Beak and Barrel, and as well as some other things related to the announcements made at D23 this last week, and will be more a part of our social media strategy moving forward. We welcome any positive thoughts and comments on our YouTube podcast as well, and we'll read those comments on the air. And as for those on this blog, please just know we appreciate all of you who join in and listen in and check us out on all of these different venues. Now, there were some D23 announcements, and it's really hard for me not to go into it, but I think there's a few other things that are still coming. And so I'm going to pause here and say we'll talk about some of these Magic Kingdom announcements, particularly the Carousel of Progress, on another date. Know that there is a video on YouTube about the Carousel of Progress that I have done. Check that out. But please know we're going to cover more to come. We just had so much to cover already. So let's talk about the Beak and Barrel. And by the way, I had been saying it wrong for some weeks now. I keep calling it the Beak and the Barrel, but it is the Beak and Barrel. At any rate, for many perhaps, the chance to visit this new tavern is to test out all the new food and drink. I have some thoughts about that here on this podcast, but being a Pirates of the Caribbean kind of nerd, it's really about the details in the setting for me. And the setting does not disappoint. The setting here is largely the former space occupied by the Pirates League, a concept similar to Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, where one could get dressed up and made up like a pirate or a skeleton. It closed just prior to COVID and never reopened. Originally, the space was called House of Treasure, a separately entranced section, which originally was where you went to buy all things pirate-like. While the other area, the area you usually step through, the Plaza del Sol Caribbean Bazaar, that actually largely sold piñatas, pottery, straw bags, and other kind of Caribbean-style wares. And part of that bazaar section was now further consumed into the space being dedicated for Beak and Barrel. Remember that this space is probably the first space ever designed for guests to have walked through a gift shop after experiencing a Disney attraction. That really wasn't something that was done prior much. There were nearby shops on a couple of occasions, but by and large, this was you would go through the gift shop. Now that happens all the time, from Buzz Lightyear to Mission Space to Dinosaur, but that was a fairly novel thing at its time. And it's still a good-sized gift shop. I mean, one has to say, how much pirate stuff do you really need to sell? And nobody needs the piñatas or straw bags anymore. But you kind of get a sense that it feels a little blocked off. as you come out of Pirates of the Caribbean, up the ramp and then into it, and it just kind of seems a little off. Beak and Barrel has also taken up a space of a secluded courtyard once seen off of the courtyard portion of the Pirates of the Caribbean queue. From what I can best tell, it's now the kitchen or backstage area of what is this lounge. Something to note is that I haven't figured out how supplies such as food and drink product get to and from the Beak and Barrel, other than going through a public space. There's no utilidor underneath this, and the facility is nestled between Pirates, the queue to Pirates, and the gift shop for Pirates. Most will never realize what is missing here, but this little courtyard, as well as the one in Tortuga Tavern, really were like the little courtyards you find in New Orleans Square at Disneyland. In fact, it's one of my laments that the courtyard in Disneyland, one of them has been kind of sucked up or taken up by Club 33, because that's the quaint and intimate and very cool little aspects of the theming here. But at any rate, most probably won't even realize that something is missing. In my Pirates of the Caribbean, a Disney Insights interactive journey, I actually talk about this at length. When you arrive at the Beak and Barrel, some modest signage can be found. It's just to the right of Pirates of the Caribbean as you approach it. There's a kind of a backstory here. There's a Captain Meridian Mary Goldwyn, Captain Mary, who is the creator and proprietor of the pub. She was a legendary pirate rum runner. This is now a haven for all those who plunder the seven seas, minus Jack Sparrow, who apparently hasn't paid up his tab. There is a list of articles, tavern articles, when you enter the experience. There are 7 listed. First, all crews welcome. Second, no fighting, fussing, or freebooting. With a little notation on the side, resolve all disputes outside. 3, pilfering of any previously pillaged plunder prohibited. 4, each crewmate has an equal claim to table provisions. 5, no foul language, foul as in F-O-W-L, as in the bird, rummy. 6, all accounts must be settled forthwith. Unpaid debts punishable by marooning. 7, in the captain's absence, all judgments defer to the quartermaster. Something about him being, I guess... Oh, and no animals in the kitchen. It's kind of an extra 8th one that is added into it. There are actually animals in this, of course. Let's talk about the different sections of this tavern. In some ways, to me, walking into it, it seemed bigger than I thought it would be. In other ways, I found it smaller than it was supposed to hold. So still, there was a lot to see in this experience. The first is the main room, which is the mess and cursed bar. Toward the entrance, if you turn around and look up, you see a ship's bell. Rumor has it the bell was from Captain Red's first ship, and it was gifted to Mary at the tavern's founding. Some say they were close friends or perhaps fierce rivals. The bell apparently rings from time to time, but I may have missed that moment when it happened. There's a pirate foot off to the left, which hangs randomly from a hammock above. I say random because it is just that. It's random, and a little bit like in Mary Poppins when they tell a joke about a man with a wooden leg named Smith. At any rate, elsewhere nearby is an entire anchor hoisted above the crowd that's used as a lighting fixture. On one side, you'll find these windows that separate the mess and curse bar from the captain's quarters. And you see in those windows mermaids that were embedded into the windows. These windows were apparently salvaged from the wreckage of a pirate ship. In a dark corner on the far end of the room is known as the brig. and bears the bars and framework of its past life. It is said these walls remember every individual once in prison. It's really essentially a cozy little space to kind of have your group lined up in. And then at the Cursed Bar, which is the centerpiece of this entire room, you're going to want to take a note of a bottle of rum, which is almost sitting center. Now, remember, I kind of mentioned earlier that there is a skull that becomes this big kind of, the back of the bar is really kind of a hidden skull, or makes out for a skull. And within the confines of the skull, you're going to take note of a bottle of rum that's set aside. It is the enchanted rum bottle. Captain Mary received this from a powerful enchantress, and this bottle of rum stays full all the time. There are lots of chants and lots of interactivity going on, and one of those chants was, you see that the rum is running out. And so everybody, and you can see it coming out of the bottle. So all of a sudden everybody starts chanting, more rum, more rum, more rum, and then the bottle refills in an enchanted kind of way. I mentioned the skull being hidden gem in the back of the bar. It's actually also the confines or the location of Rummy, which honestly is the highlight of this whole place. In the same way that you see Rex inside the cantina at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, he's kind of the centerpiece of that space. Rummy is really the highlight of this total experience. He could be found offering stories, jokes, or songs. Note his little, if you look on one side, he comes out from behind the skull when he comes out and talks to everybody. But if you look on the far right, down a little lower, you'll see that there's actually a little tiny cot or bed in the corner where he hangs out, or where he's supposed to sleep at night. The parrot is based on a former Barker bird, Pegleg Pete, who used to stand at the entrance of Pirates of the Caribbean trying to get everybody to come into Pirates, and kind of setting the stage for why you would go into this building that you didn't know was going to take you on a whole pirate adventure. And that animatronic was actually a descendant of another Barker bird who originally stood at the entrance to Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room in the early days of Disneyland. We spoke about him a couple of podcasts ago when we talked about Adventureland at Disneyland and his world there. It was voiced by Wally Bogue. So there's this kind of heritage of Barker birds, so to speak, or birds. In the videos you see of Rummy, he looks a little smaller than his predecessors, but actually when you get closer up, he's pretty much the same size, and he's really quite enchanting. He's a lot of fun, and he comes out quite often. I would say in the 40 minutes we were there, he came out at least 7 or 8 times. So you get a really good space. Now, if you go back to the entrance of the bar, I should say that Rummy is not the only animal in there, although no animals in the kitchen, like it says on the articles. But there is another animal that occupies the space. Near the bell is a sleeping black cat who was a companion to Captain Mary. And if you stare slowly, you see that this cat is breathing and kind of makes an occasional purr as he or she sleeps. So again, it's kind of it's kind of just part of the whole details of that whole space. Now, from there, you're sectioned off to the captain quarters. I thought this would be more of a defined definition, and there is a wall separating the two, but it's still very open. Earlier, we talked about the captain's booths. Aligned along in the centerpiece of the captain's quarters is the fireplace. And the fun detail in this room are the ships on the mantle. They represent pirates from every corner of the world, and they come alive and go into battle, I thought every few minutes, according to what they said. But in truth, they only actually happen about every 40 minutes. And when they happen, every camera is on it. It's just like it's this own media event when it happens, there's a little, our server told us there's a little red light that blinks in advance of that going off if you kind of keep an eye on the mantle. But, and we did get a chance to see it. I was filming in the other room at the time it started happening, and then I came back into the room where we were, and we were actually in front of the ships. But again, everybody was standing around the whole thing and looking at it. It is the centerpiece, but it doesn't go off very often, so keep an eye on that. However, on both sides of the fireplace are these captain's booths, which hold a lot of guests in them. And they have 4 different themes that represent kind of pirate ideals: adventure, freedom, fortune, and unity. And embedded in each of these captain booths are these carved wood panels that tie to these different themes. For adventure, you see Jack Sparrow's battle with the Kraken. For freedom, you see it symbolized by life aboard a ship that can sail as she pleases. In fortune, you see the representation of plenty of riches and wealth and treasure. And then for unity, you see it symbolized by the multiple pirate lords that were found in the films. There is also, in a very small corner after the last booth, a kind of a gaming parlor. I would not call this a private room, but it's a little crevice that allows people to play games of skill and chance. Bottled nearby is part of a kraken that comes alive in one of the bottles. So that's kind of the little thing in that little section. Then you have the map maker's room, and it is opposite of where the captain's quarters are. And this is just kind of a triangular shaped space off to the side of the mess hall portion, not far from the entrance of it. Supposedly this is the territory of a crazed pirate cartographer who has embedded treasure secrets within the rolled up maps and parchment. It seems like there is more to be unlocked here, but in such a tight space, it was really hard for me to study it without interrupting the guest experience of others. I would assume there is more to come here because it's kind of cool. And the table, too, seems to have some kind of notation on it that might give some hint or clue. At no point did I see anything magically come to life, but again, there may be more that I just don't know of that I wasn't able to capture. I kept coming back to it thinking I'm going to see something, or I'm going to get a better view of this. And I did get better views, but nothing really took out of that experience. And it's such an intimate space. I can't imagine everybody coming in there to go see something come to life because, again, it's not a huge space altogether, but there is so much going on within this whole theme. Now, as for our experience, thanks to the generosity of a good friend, I was able to secure a table for 2 for Beak and Barrel. It was for the evening. Our party ended up a little bigger than I anticipated, and so I went ahead to the Beak and Barrel to see what we could do. Perhaps because it was much later in the evening, and perhaps rain had emptied the park, and perhaps because it was definitely an off-season time, they made accommodation for our party. And it was a great accommodation. I have to say now, thinking back on it, perhaps it was the best table in the tavern. For a lot of times, like in the mess or in the captain's booths, you're kind of sharing space with other people. But here it was a table of 4, and it had a perfect setting that allowed us to be seated in front of the fireplace in the captain's quarters, but with a good solid view of the mess and the curse bar, complete with a view of Rummy and his exploits. When we when we entered, we were told not once, not twice, but 3 times, this is a 40-minute experience. And in truth, we were fine with that and left around 40 minutes into it. But 30 plus minutes into our experience, the server came by asking if we wanted another round. We declined and ultimately settled our tab. But if we had ordered another round, I can't imagine that we would have been able to have done it in 40 minutes. We would have been there longer settling out the tab. And in fact, Another party next to us was already there when we arrived and left after we did. They didn't seem so hard on the time, but I have to say their ability to address the time frame requires timing on the server's part. Every server was focused, energized, and competent. They were hustling and moving the room, all the while being part of the fun and banter of the Beak and Barrel. So, what about the food and drink? Well, for that, I invited my party of four to share their thoughts. For the evening, my wife and I enjoyed being with John and Lori Scully, and together we shared our thoughts on the experience. After we left the tavern, we ran right into the evening's fireworks. So we kind of followed the fireworks along the trail to Frontierland and into Liberty Square until they finished. And then we sat at a little table to the side in Liberty Square. Unfortunately, in my efforts to record them, I completely lost the sound in part of the interview. And so, unfortunately, I don't have them sharing exactly what they experienced. I'm going to relay to you what they shared with me. John had the Hibiscus Rum Punch Royale. It was a Don Q Reserva 7 Puerto Rican rum, hibiscus demerara, and lime topped with Prosecco. And that was for about $19. Again, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing all these really well. I don't do liquor, and so I don't have that background. But he enjoyed the drink very much and thought it was a pretty good tasting drink. Might try something a little different the next time. He did compare the drink to one that is pirate themed at the top of the world and thought, this drink this isn't near the experience he had drinking the signature cocktail or rum that they had at the top of the world. And that was a little disappointing to him, but he enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. Lori had the Lit Fuse, which is Los Siete Misterios Doba y Mezcal, Tempest Fugit, Creme de Banana, Liqueur, Coconut Water, Lime Juice, and Helicocktail companies with smoked chili bitters. That was for $18.50. And she was told when she ordered the drink that it had a little of that chili in it. But she thought she'd like that. She didn't really care for it. They both tried each other's drinks, and they both agreed John's was a better drink than what Lori had. So it was not as good as what John had ordered. Now, my wife didn't choose to order a drink. Rather, she had the Cook's Corn Griddle cakes with the chipotle braised chicken. And that's warm corn cake stuffed with melted cheese, lime sour cream, chili peppers, and cotija. And of course, with the chicken itself, she thought with the chili peppers, it was too intense. In fact, she thought it might have been even jalapenos instead of chili peppers. I don't think so. I had a taste of it, but she said she liked the warm corn cake, which was more of a yellow corn arepa kind of thing. And I tasted that as well and thought it was pretty good. But I don't think she would have hurried back to having that the same way she had had before. I had one of the non-alcoholic specialty beverages, which is the Treasure Trove. It's a mysterious ube, lemon, and coconut concoction served with a vanilla cake plank, chocolate cannonball, and golden caramel popcorn. That's $13.75. This thing is designed for children who are coming in and they want to have something fun to eat. And it was both a drink as well as a snack. The snack portion was really very good. The vanilla cake plank is kind of a brownie consistency, very moist. Chocolate cannonball was okay. Golden caramel popcorn was okay, but the vanilla cake plank was very good. The drink itself, I have to say, I'm not buying that as well. And again, I don't do alcohol, but I've come to notice people who drink alcohol, they seem to load up the whole glass with ice, which maybe keeps you from getting too drunk. But I just found it very watered down. And I thought it had possibilities, but if I were to ever order it again, I'd ask them to not put in more than 3 pieces of ice into the drink. I think altogether we thought that the total experience worked really well. John was very quick to note that he thought it was better than the Cantina experience, and he would want to come here rather than go there. But they also compared it to some of the finer lounges, particularly on the resort side. And then we all kind of lamented that maybe Disney's strategy around, or Disney's only strategy right now in terms of improving food and beverage is to build another lounge. Lori lamented about the fact that this bird cage lounge is coming to the Grand Floridian. It just seemed like too much. And especially when they had already done the Beauty and the Beast themed one there at the Grand Floridian. And later on, we actually talked about this villain style thing that they put on top of the DVC tower at the Contemporary, and it having kind of ruined the entire experience because now you've got to make more reservations. You can't just stop, drop in, and it's more of a package deal and more expensive, and is it really worth it, and that type of thing. So we had a really good dialogue around that. Coming back to our experience with, I think we all four agreed that it was about the entire experience. And I cannot say enough about Rummy being kind of the host of that experience, because everybody, particularly the servers, respond. He says, drink up your hearties, and everybody goes yo-ho, and he came out at one point and saying yo-ho, yo-ho, a pirate's life for me. And then there was a whole experience with the sirens or the mermaids and them making a sound. Everybody cover your ears, cover your ears, cover your ears. All of those little experiences, all which took place in the 40 minutes we were there. It was a full experience, not so intense that you couldn't just sit back and enjoy your time with each other and enjoy the company. But it was a little bit on the intense, but it was just very enjoyable, and without the intensity is what I'm trying to say. And I think all of us really enjoyed having had that experience. My thanks to John and Lori for joining my wife and I. We just had a great time. Going back to the 40 minutes, honestly, I didn't feel rushed through it, but I didn't feel like I needed to spend more time, especially when I probably spent half that time. They sat around talking and chatting about this and that. I spent about half my time, if not more, filming and recording and taking pictures and so forth. But if I had just not done any of that, I too would probably have said 40 minutes is good for me, and we were on our way. So that's kind of how we felt about the experience. And I love the fact that John kind of compares it to the Cantina. I would say it's the Cantina is at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, is a great concept and a great idea, but it's not as detailed out as this experience is. There's something about all the little details, the messages and the architecture, the whole look and feel of it, that just keeps your eye moving and looking at different little things as you go along. You don't really quite get that at the Cantina. The one irony about this space is that so much time and attention was paid to this that you kind of wondered why they didn't do the same with Tortuga Tavern across from Pirates of the Caribbean. This is a lovely space, and by the way, now holds the only one of those little intimate courtyards that we talked about earlier. And it could be so much more, even if they did nothing more than improve on their menu and actually try to consistently keep the thing open. Even on days that it is open, it's usually closed by 4 o'clock. And it just always seems like a miss. Actually, I've said this before, but I honestly, if I'm going to go get a pineapple Dole Whip, I'll honestly walk around and come over to Tortuga Tavern to enjoy that space and have a seat and not have to sit on a cement bench or curbing. So I enjoy going over there to enjoy my pineapple Dole Whip. But at any rate, Not everyone has the time to visit Beak and Barrel, nor are they likely to get an appointment, especially in the short run. But it just seems like an obvious opportunity that could be addressed by really focusing on improving that area. This much I'll say about Tortuga Tavern. This is one of the most likely spaces you will find Captain Jack Sparrow, which currently is about 3 times a day, like about 11:25, 12:35, and 2:40 p.m. The app says you can find him outside of Plaza del Sol Caribbean Bazaar, the gift shop area. But I usually see him more often at Tortuga Tavern. And that's kind of fun there. So at any rate, just kind of be on the lookout. Again, he hasn't settled his tab over at Beak and Barrel, so you're going to find him. You're not going to find him there. That said, Caribbean Plaza, the whole area of Adventureland here at Magic Kingdom, now has an offering that I think kind of really competes with Disneyland's offering. Yes, I've said 1,000 times over that Disneyland's Pirates of the Caribbean is far superior than the one here, and of course in the setting of New Orleans Square. And they do also have this Pirates Lair on Tom Sawyer's Island to consider. But I also think very highly of the queue experience at Pirates of the Caribbean, and more highly of a Pirates Adventure Treasure of the Seven Seas. That's the scavenger hunt that you can do. There is a lot of fun, quirky nooks and details in the different hunts, more than you're actually going to find on Pirates Lair. And adding this new lounge to the entire experience, that makes it all the more fun to do Pirates of the Caribbean at Magic Kingdom. It certainly makes it its own unique set of experiences between the scavenger hunt, the lounge, and the attraction. It isn't as big and unique as the one in Shanghai, but it is a lot of fun. And it's in a level of detail I usually find at Disneyland, not at Magic Kingdom. And that's what attracted me so much to the experience. I could care less about the food and beverage. In fact, honestly, my wife and I really have come to a conclusion, having done Magic Kingdom a lot, especially with the parade recently. So many good things happening at Magic Kingdom. So many good things, despite the closings that we've also talked about and lamented over. But I got to tell you, the problem with Magic Kingdom is the food and beverage is worse than any of the 4 parks. Perhaps worse than any other park. My tastes don't go for Hong Kong's or Shanghai's menus, but even then, it's just not great food. We usually settle on the popcorn, not popcorn bucket, but the mix your own popcorn with M&Ms and chocolate and all that kind of thing over at the confectionery. Maybe I'll do candied almonds. But other than that, and maybe an occasional Dole Whip. But other than that, there is nothing in terms of meals that works at Disneyland or at Magic Kingdom. So it really is in need of paying attention more than just to the square footage you can get out of a lounge like this. They need to focus on just the whole dining experience in general across. A couple of weeks ago, I had a chicken buffalo flatbread over at Pinocchio's. It was disgusting. And their tomato soup, well, you have breadsticks, which are okay, but you might as well, and they come with their own little tomato thing with it, but you might as well have dipped it in the tomato soup because the soup is so thick. It's all just not good. Fries, my lobster roll I'm gone on to a little thing here, but I'm just saying there's a lot of misses at Magic Kingdom when it comes to food. This was a crowning moment to have seen this kind of experience play out, but even then, I wouldn't say the food was the thing to come back to at Beak and Barrel. It's really the ambiance and the experience of being there together. Now, the reception of this and the absolute excitement that people have for this makes me think one of these should and will likely come to Disneyland. But there really is no space in New Orleans Square of any significance, and I would really hesitate to remove anything that removes the charm of this space. By the way, this is all ironic because upstairs is Club 33, which is another pirate lounge. And by the way, the Club 33 at Magic Kingdom also has a portion that's Pirates themed. So this is not the first pirate lounge at Magic Kingdom. It actually is over at Club 33 on the other side of Adventureland. That's neither here or there. Still, the Disneyland Hotel has Trader Sam's Enchanted Tiki Bar. This is a terrific little place, whether you're inside or outside. Magical, very much in the same spirit that Beak and Barrel are. There's also a kind of a lounge called the Broken Spell that is based on Sleeping Beauty over at Disneyland Hotel, but it's kind of half-hearted compared to Sam's or Beak and Barrel. I see this as being the perfect home for something like that to come to Disneyland. That would be, because I just don't see them having the kind of space to do it, to do its own successful kind of experience. You need, if anything, Beak and Barrel needed more space. You don't want it too big. The intimacy is enjoyable, but it could use more space. By the way, note that the new Disney Adventure is supposed to have its own pirate-themed space known as the Cask and Cannon, which will include a number of rare specialty and vintage rums, plus some bootleg brews, that type of thing. The rumor from Disney is that the savviest treasure hunters may even uncover a mysterious trove of looted libations served in an actual treasure chest. Sounds like the focus is much more on the drink for the Disney Adventure, which, again, I don't care for. I care for the theming, but know that that's part of what's coming to the Disney Adventure, along with a couple of the Haunted Mansion one and also the Marvel-based one dealing with Doctor Strange. I believe there are 3 of those altogether. So lots to come on that over at the Disney Adventure. But if you're not planning on Disney Cruise on the Disney Adventure soon, see if you can't come over to Adventureland and Magic Kingdom, to Caribbean Plaza, and check out the Beak and Barrel. Thanks for joining us on this podcast. Hopefully it's made you realize that, hey, you got to come over to Walt Disney World and come soon. May I suggest that David and Leah with Zenola Travel know Disney in ways few do, and they can make your next trip on land or sea an exciting one, or at least a little bit less stressful. So be sure to contact them. They're on our notes page. They're on DisneyInsights.com, and you can reach out to them. There's really no charge to utilize their services, but it will save you enormous time getting all the details right. And with their insight, you can be assured you're going to experience the best trip possible. So reach out to David and Leah. Also, check out my books at Disney Insights, A Century of Powerful Disney Insights from 100 years, particularly the Walt and Roy Disney years of 1923 to 1973. My book, The Wonderful World of Customer Service at Disney, in its 2nd edition, features great insights on how to create for the customer experience. And then there's Disney Leadership in You, which covers best stories that few have heard about Disney leadership and what its implications are to you as a leader. So check those out, along with our regular book, Lead with Your Customer, that not only features Disney, but over 100 different other organizations in the public, private, and nonprofit sector. If you're looking to find excellence in your organization, know that this podcast is provided by myself and Performance Journeys, which celebrates more than 20 years as a training and development group, bringing best in business ideas through books, keynotes, workshops, seminars, and online tools to help you take your organization to the next level. If you want a keynote speaker, more than just nice stories, I offer proven insight and solutions, having worked in the trench. Need consulting? I've worked for decades across the public, private, and nonprofit arena. And if you need support, we offer so many classroom, online, and other resources to help you improve your customer service delivery, leadership development, and employee engagement. So, hey, contact us today and let us help. Again, thanks for joining us for this podcast. Know that as in the title of Performance Journeys, it's as much about the journey as it is about performance. Find the second star to the right and keep going straight on till you reach it. Follow the compass of your heart and know that with a smile and a song, a little faith, effort, and pixie dust, your dreams can come true. After all, if we can dream it, we can do it. Until next time, bright suns, we'll see you real soon.